Hello, I'm your host Mark Ion, and welcome back to How Not to Play Like Wil Wheaton. This week we'll be reviewing a tempo-based set collecting game that is one of the foundations of modern board gaming. Ticket to Ride. On your turn, you have three options. You can either draw more cards, play trains to claim routes, or you can draw more tickets. I would consider the first two tempo options because they help move the game towards the finish. Drawing more tickets can get you more points, but it does not progress the game any farther. Probably one of the most important goals in the game is to be the player who comes down to two or less trains first, and trigger the end of the game. This means you have played more trains, which gives you advantage both in number of points you get from playing trains, as well as gives you the best likelihood for claiming the longest route, and those extra 10 points. It also means you should have accomplished everything you want to accomplish, while your opponents might still have gaps, such as these, which will cause them to lose points if they cannot complete them in time, in that one last turn. This is why tempo is so important, and quite often, the most efficient person wins. To this effect, drawing two train cards gives you a lot more tempo than drawing one locomotive card. This is why, during the first 3/4 of the game, I always recommend that if you don't see any face-up trains that you need, that you draw two face-down random cards, rather than drawing the locomotive. This is because you will probably eventually get to use those trains, and you don't lose tempo. On the other hand, you don't want to draw too many train cards. You only have 45 trains, and drawing more cards than that is also a loss in tempo. This is why during the last quarter of the game, I recommend that if you only need one or two colors left, that you take the locomotive, because the odds that you'll draw a card you need from the random pile become less. It is also helpful to watch what people are drawing. Since there are only 12 of each color, if you see a bunch of people collecting a certain color train, meaning there are little to none of that color train in the draw pile, and you desperately need that color, you may need to draw a locomotive to finish that route. But only do that if there is no other choice but to take that route. Playing trains is where the large bulk of the points come from. The longer the route claimed, the more points per train segment the route is worth. Also, the longer routes you play, the less turns you spend playing trains. A 6-segment train is worth 15 points, while two 3-segment trains would only be worth 2 times 4, which is 8 points. So the longer train nets almost double the points, and it only takes 1 turn to play rather than 2, so it gains tempo as well. When placing your route, you want to branch as little as possible, ideally making one long continuous route like this one. This will give you the best chance at getting the longest route at the end of the game. Also, try to make your route using only routes that are at least 3 trains long and contain as many 5 or 6 train segment tracks as possible. Do be careful though, and make sure you have enough trains to complete your path, especially if you had to make detours due to other players claiming routes you wanted. The strategy of how to use tickets is probably the area that has the widest range of recommendations and is hotly debated over. Some people will recommend that you ignore tickets completely and race for the end game, playing long routes as quickly as possible, no matter what tickets are in your hand, while others will tell you to focus completely on finishing as many tickets as possible. What I recommend is somewhere in between the two. I find it very hard to win with 2 uncompleted tickets, because usually no matter how quickly you rush, the loss of points at the end will be greater than the benefit of rushing. On the other hand, drawing tickets takes up turns and makes you lose tempo, and can prevent you from completing all those routes before someone runs out of trains. First, look at the tickets you're given. You pretty much always want to keep any tickets that are worth 17 points or more. So we got 21 points, we want to keep that ticket. 17 points, we want to keep that ticket. 13 points, it's not above the 17 limit, and it doesn't go horizontal like our other two, so we're going to toss that one and just keep these 2 tickets. Also, any tickets that can be claimed by going around the outside of the board are much better than tickets that go through the middle of the board, because the outside routes are longer than the inside ones. As you can see, you got a lot of the 6 and 5 point routes are on the outside, including, I consider this 3 path of 6 mostly on the outside, versus the inside where you got 1 5, lots of 3s, lots of 2s, couple 4s. Really, you're much better off sticking to the outside. In this vein, horizontal tickets are better than vertical tickets because they can more readily be completed by longer routes. If you must take a route through the middle, which will sometimes happen depending on the tickets you're given, choose the route with the lowest point value and ignore it. After this first round, you'll most likely want to get tickets 1 or 2 more times, unless, in this case, you have 2 long tickets already. It is better to grab these tickets earlier rather than later, so you can plan your route around them. Again, always make sure you have enough trains to complete the path you have planned. That's all for this episode of How Not to Play Like Wil Wheaton. What is your preferred method of travel? Do you like to fly in a plane, or would you rather keep your feet firmly planted on the ground in a car or train? I want to hear about it in the comment section below. Please remember to share, like, and subscribe, and as always, remember to stay geeky.